The first thing they noticed was the silence on a remote ranch in northeastern Utah. Even the wind seemed to be holding its breath, according to investigators who later wrote about this place. The family living here would come to believe that something in that silence was listening, and answering this stretch of land, now known worldwide as Skinwalker Ranch, has been the subject of private investigations, classified Pentagon contracts, and countless nights of whispered fear over decades. Ranchers, researchers, and security personnel have reported a catalog of things that should not exist. Glowing orbs that burn flesh, animals carved open with surgical precision, towering creatures that seem to absorb bullets. Some of these accounts are so strange that they sound like fiction, yet they appear in books, interviews, and reports tied to real government funding. We will stay as close as we can to what witnesses, researchers, and official documents actually say, and you can decide for yourself whether Skinwalker Ranch is a story of hysteria, manipulation, or something far darker. Staring back from the emptiness of the Uintah Basin. Skinwalker Ranch lies in the Uintah Basin of northeastern Utah, near the small town of Ballard. Long before it became a focus of paranormal research, this region already carried a reputation for strange lights and frightening folklore in interviews and local histories. Members of the Ute tribe have described the nearby land as cursed, a place associated with so-called skinwalkers, figures in Navajo and Ute tradition who can allegedly change shape and work harmful magic. These are cultural beliefs, not proven entities, but they form the background for what would happen next. In 1994, according to public records and later reporting, a cattle ranching family purchased the property, hoping for a quiet life of breeding high-quality livestock instead. As described in the 2005 book, Hunt for the Skinwalker, by Colm Kelleher and journalist George Knapp, the family quickly began to experience events they could not explain: lights in the sky, mutilated cattle, towering animals, and something that seemed to study them from just beyond the tree line. Their reports would eventually attract the attention of millionaire aerospace entrepreneur Robert Bigelow, who bought the ranch in 1996 and placed it under the control of his research organization, the National Institute for Discovery Science, or NIDS. What began as a family's private nightmare was about to become a case file. According to Kelleher's account, the first major incident came only weeks after the family moved in. One evening, a huge wolf-like animal approached them while they were working near a corral. They later estimated that its back reached almost to a man's chest. It seemed calm, even tame, until it suddenly clamped its jaws around the head of a calf. Through the corral bars, the rancher fired a handgun into the creature at point-blank range, and, according to his account, it simply would not die. Only after multiple shots from a larger rifle did it step back, apparently unharmed, before slowly walking away and vanishing into the brush. They followed its tracks, which witnesses said abruptly stopped, as if the animal had just lifted off the ground. In the months that followed, the family reported phenomena that seemed to escalate in both frequency and cruelty. According to Kelleher and Knapp, the family woke to find their prized cattle carved open, organs removed with what looked like surgical precision, and not a drop of blood on the ground. Similar cattle mutilations had been reported in the American West for decades, with sheriff's departments and federal agencies occasionally logging cases as unsolved. But here, they seemed to happen in clusters, right under the noses of the investigators who had come to stop them. When Robert Bigelow's NIDS team took over the property, they installed cameras, observation posts, and a rotation of scientists, retired military personnel, and surveillance experts. Their aim, as described in the book and later interviews, was not to prove folklore true, but to systematically record whatever was happening on the ranch. What they found, they say, defied easy categorization. Witnesses reported seeing silent, craft-like lights maneuvering over the fields, spheres of blue light that seemed to react intelligently, and tunnel-shaped openings in the air, glowing orange, from which dark, humanoid shapes appeared to crawl. Some NIDS personnel, including biochemist Colm Kelleher, have gone on record describing these events, though no clear photographic evidence has been released that satisfies skeptics. Cameras reportedly malfunctioned or were found destroyed in ways that looked deliberate, with cables ripped out and equipment disassembled in seconds between recorded frames. According to the investigators, it was as if whatever they were chasing was always one step ahead, watching them watch it. Among the many incidents described at the ranch, one stands out for its sheer brutality. According to Hunt for the Skinwalker, On one night, the family noticed a small, bright blue orb floating across a field near their home. The orb moved silently, about the size of a baseball, pulsing with what witnesses later compared to an internal liquid light. Their dogs, usually fearless, reacted with immediate rage, barking and snapping as if at an intruder. The rancher shouted and tried to call them back, but the animals chased the orb as it darted away toward a line of trees. The light led them deeper into the darkness, weaving just out of reach. Minutes later, the barking stopped when the rancher approached the tree line. He reported finding 3 dark, greasy piles on the ground, what he believed were the liquefied remains of his dogs, still giving off a strange chemical smell for him. That night ended the experiment of trying to confront whatever was on the property. He later sold the ranch to Bigelow, telling interviewers that he felt he was dealing with something far beyond ghosts or simple UFOs. NIDS maintained a presence on the ranch for several years, publishing a handful of technical papers about unusual aerial phenomena, but keeping most of its data private. By the early 2000s, the organization quietly wound down, and the ranch slipped back into relative obscurity. Then, in 2017, a New York Times article revealed that the U.S. Department of Defense had secretly funded a program to study unidentified aerial phenomena. The article named Bigelow Aerospace Advanced Space Studies, or BASS, as a key contractor, and later books and interviews connected that work directly back to Skinwalker Ranch and Skinwalkers at the Pentagon. Co-authored by James Lakatsky, Colm Kelleher, and George Knapp, the writers describe a Defense Intelligence Agency program known as OSAP, the Advanced Aerospace Weapon System Applications Program. According to their account, Skinwalker Ranch served as one of the central locations where OSAP contractors collected data on unexplained phenomena, from aerial objects to what they interpret as encounters with non-human entities. They describe investigators being followed home by strange activity, shadowy figures in hallways, poltergeist-like disturbances, and, in some cases, apparitions reported by family members who had never visited the ranch. The authors refer to this as a hitchhiker effect, and their narrative reads, at times, like a clinical catalog of monsters migrating from a single patch of Utah soil into ordinary suburban homes. It is important to note that much of this material comes from interviews, internal reports, and personal testimony. Few hard data have been released for independent review. Skeptics argue that the lack of verifiable evidence, despite years of funding and instrumentation, points to more ordinary explanations: misperception, stress, misidentified aircraft, or even deliberate embellishment. Yet the government contracts, the security clearances, and the continued secrecy have kept the story alive for the ranching family. The psychological cost was immediate and personal. They reported months of sleepless nights, constant anxiety for their children and animals, and a growing sense that they were being hunted on their own land in Skinwalkers at the Pentagon. The authors recount cases where spouses and children reported apparitions, loud crashes, and claw-like marks appearing in their homes after an investigator returned from the ranch. Whether these were paranormal events, psychological contagion, or a mix of both, the result was the same: fear that did not stay in the desert. Skinwalker Ranch lies behind security fences, its past owned by companies, and its legends drifting across the internet. What remains on record are fragments, statements, interviews, scientific notes, and a trail of Pentagon contracts linking a Utah pasture to classified studies of the unknown. Between skepticism and belief is an empty space over those fields, and no camera has yet proven what, if anything, is staring back.